I have here a 2007 Hyundai Sonata. This has a 3.3 liter 6-cylinder. I'm not sure if that makes any difference, but we're going to replace these old rusted out struts. First, we're going to start by removing these two 12mm bolts. You can use a normal socket for this outside one. We are on the passenger side right now, but as far as this inner one, we're going to need you're going to need a ratchet wrench or something, because it's not a lot of room right here. This is actually much quicker. Alright, so on the side of this, these are going to be two plates. One that connects here. This one's actually completely removable. That's how it'll go. Now, to give you a little more playroom with these brake hoses, since you don't really want to bend them too much, there's one right there. It's also a 12mm that we'll remove. Now, this bolt doesn't actually have to come completely out. It actually will connect to the connector there, see? So yeah, you won't have to really deal with losing that one at least. Next, we're going to remove the bolts for the sway bar link or the stabilizer bar link, whatever you would like to call it. It is a 17mm bolt head, and I'm going to use some channel locks, but you see this little area right here, there is something to connect into with like a wrench, but since I got to replace these anyways, I'm going to just use some channel locks, and it'll pretty much just tear it to hell, but it'll get it off. So here's sort of what it's going to look like. Get this off. I watched a couple other videos and they aren't lying. These things are a pain. These are obviously original, so they're extremely old and it's just crumbling behind there. So I'm glad I'm going to be replacing them, but this is kind of what it looks like. Using a breaker bar, 3/8 breaker bar. Now, to help you relieve pressure off the sway bar, what I like to do is take a jack, pick up on the lower control arm, as much as you need to. See, it comes right out. While I got this out, something you want to look for, you shouldn't be able to do this with your sway bar links. Or you really shouldn't be able to move this freely with your thumb. Next, what we're gonna remove is this bolt right here. It's a 17mm. It's actually what locks your strut into the assembly. This is where you're gonna need some 1/2-inch tools, maybe a 1/2-inch breaker bar. But yeah, 3/8 anything might not work with this. That thing is in there. So yeah, I whipped out the 1/2-inch, and I'll get that off and show you guys. Hopefully we don't have to hit it with the flame. Okay, getting this off by hand's not working, so we're gonna have to bring in a breaker bar. Just so you know, if anybody probably doesn't know this or not, but each part of your jack handle can be used as a breaker bar. It's actually why they come apart, I've heard. So yeah, take the end of the jack, put it on. Okay. Here we go. We're moving out. There we go. This is that same bolt I've been working on. It's a very long bolt, so you're going to be at this for a while. But here's what it looks like. Very rusty. I'll spray some WD-40 in there. Lube it up so when I put it back in there, be a little easier. This last bolt down here is the fun one. It's a 19mm. I'm going to show you from the... Again, we are on the passenger side of the vehicle. To that one right there. Holds the whole assembly in place. So I'll get that one out. So here's kind of the setup I'm gonna have. Once I crank that, once I crank it, or actually get it moving, I should say, it's gonna push up against the rotor and just lock that into place. And I stuck with the 1/2 inch. Again, I wouldn't try 3/8 with this, but I guess you can. So before I go any further, I had to switch them out. I'm gonna loosen it from this side, not the other side. So before you try to watch this video and make the same mistake I did. This is also an extremely long bolt. I won't bore you with this. So once you get that 19mm nut off, you're gonna have to just beat it through. The same thing with over here. Sometimes it's helpful to put a wrench in here to wedge it and then hit that with the hammer. So yeah, here's how long that bolt is. It's huge. That's that 19mm bolt holding the assembly to the control arm. Now that everything's below is taken care of, the last thing to do is to take apart these three 15mm bolts up top. Once you get the top 3 bolts out, you can toss those nuts. I mean, because if you buy new struts, if you got like the strut mounts and everything, I went with the quick strut. Just easier. Don't have to deal with the spring compressor, but you get brand new bolts, so you definitely want to use those. And don't worry about the strut; it's only going to drop down just a couple inches. And here's why. So it's part of this assembly right here. So what I'm going to do is, you're going to beat this down to get that strut out of the center. Now I'm going to back up for a second. So I know I said to take out all 3 right up front. Don't do that just yet. Get them to where they're about to be completely off. I had to put mine back through. But you want something to hold on to that strut, because I kind of got ahead of myself. We got to beat this down, this housing down, in order to separate the strut. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So there you can see that was just actually 1 or 2 hits, and you can just rock it back and forth and it starts to separate. Yeah, it's pretty much out of there. Now you want to remove the final bolt. Like I said, leave 1 or 2 up here when you do it. That actually made it so much easier. Now that that's all free, you'll be able to... I guess I lost my light. All right. Move it and push it to the side. And then the strut will come out eventually. But like I said, I lost my light, so I can't film anyways. Now to give myself a little more wiggle room, I did end up having to get rid of this 12mm bolt holding on for the brake line. There it is. Because the spring is so wide, it won't let me actually get it out. So I'm almost at my 10-minute limit that I have for my phone. But quick tip is something that I didn't know about. When you're putting in your new strut, it's going to have this notch right here. This is going to go towards the car because it's going to seat, not that you can see it, but it's going to seat only one way in there. And that way you can tighten down that 17mm bolt and get the strut nice and in there.